blues fans, you made it, and we're glad you did. Time for another episode of This Week of the Blues. It's our weekly take on blues history. I'm your host, Jimbo Big Train Manson, with the blues band Big Train and the Locomotives. So let's take a look and see what happened this week in blues history.
Libby Ray Watson is one of my favorite traditional blues musicians. She was born on January 5th in 1954 in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Now, her distinctive voice, her storytelling, and her finger-picking style has attracted fans worldwide. In addition to performing, she has dedicated her musical life to educating the world about Mississippi's musical history. Libby Ray has performed at many festivals over her career: the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, the King Biscuit Festival in Helena, Arkansas, the Juke Joint Festival in Clarksdale, Mississippi, as well as in Europe. She is a genuine musical treasure, and if you have a chance to catch her live, or even better, just go buy a CD, just don't pass it up. Blues and folk singer-songwriter Elizabeth "Libba" Cotton was born January 5th in 1893 to a musical family near Chapel Hill, North Carolina. She was a self-taught left-handed guitarist, playing a guitar strung for a right-handed player, basically playing it upside down. This position meant that she would play the bass lines with her fingers and the melody with her thumb. Her signature alternating bass style has become known as cotton pickin'. Fabulous Thunderbirds founding member and harp maestro Kim Wilson was born January 6, 1951 in Detroit, Michigan. He started with the blues in the late 1960s and was tutored by people like Muddy Waters, Jimmy Rogers, Eddie Taylor, Albert Collins, George Harmonica Smith, and Pee Wee Creighton. Wilson continues to perform at blues festivals and clubs all over the world, both as the leader of the Fabulous Thunderbirds and with Kim Wilson's Blues All-Stars. Bobo Jenkins was born January 7, 1916, in Forkland, Alabama. In addition to being one of the top bluesmen in Detroit, he also built and set up his own recording studio and record label there. Jenkins is best known for his recording of Democrat Blues and Tell Me Where You Stayed Last Night. His sharecropper father died when Jenkins was not yet 1 year old. He left home before the age of 12 and arrived in Memphis, Tennessee. He had a wife at the age of 14, the first of 10 marriages. Well, at least he's not a quitter. Blues singer Ethel Finley was born January 7, 1898 in New Orleans. She recorded 8 songs in 1923 and 1924, including You're Gonna Wake Up Some Morning, But Your Papa Will Be Gone. Finley graduated from New Orleans University and was employed as a school teacher. Finley married the pianist and composer Porter Granger, and they performed together. Now, after the birth of their daughter, Finley basically stopped her music career. She remarried and later owned a beauty shop, a restaurant, and a grocery store. On January 7, 1954, Muddy Waters recorded I'm Your Hoochie Coochie Man with Chex Records in Chicago. It was the first of many Willie Dixon songs to be recorded by Muddy Waters, one of a series that built on Muddy's already established charisma to build him an even more powerful macho image. The recording featured Muddy Waters on vocal and guitar, Little Walter on harmonica, Jimmy Rogers on guitar, Otis Spann on piano, and Elga Edmonds on drums. Chicago blues slide guitar maestro Tampa Red was born January 8th in 1903. He is best remembered as a blues guitarist who had a distinctive single-string slide style. His songwriting and his bottleneck technique influenced other leading Chicago blues guitarists, such as Big Bill Broonzy, Robert Nighthawk, and Muddy Waters. In a career spanning over 30 years, his best-known records include Annaloo Blues, Black Angel Blues, Cryin' Won't Help You, It Hurts Me Too, and Love Her With a Feeling. Delta blues guitarist Ishman Bracey was born January 9, 1889, in Byram, Mississippi. Alongside his contemporary Tommy Johnson, Bracy was a highly influential bluesman in Mississippi and was one of the area's earliest figures to record blues material. Bracy's recordings included Trouble-Hearted Blues and Left Alone Blues. Chicago blues guitarist Kenneth Buddy Scott was born January 9, 1935 in Goodman, Mississippi. He moved to Chicago when he was 7 and later joined the doo-wop group, the Masqueraders. Now, Buddy formed a group called Scotty and the Rib Tips and recorded several singles late in the 1960s. They played locally in Chicago blues clubs for over a generation. In 1993, Scott signed a recording contract with Verve Records and released his major debut album called Bad Avenue. Unfortunately, not long after the album's release, Scott died of stomach cancer in Chicago. Chicago blues guitarist Eddie Clearwater was born January 10, 1935 in Macon, Mississippi. He was a cousin of the blues harmonica player Carrie Bell. He's been called one of the blues' finest songwriters. He began at the age of 13, teaching himself left-handed and upside down. He began performing with gospel groups, including the Five Blind Boys of Alabama. Blues maestro Slim Harpo was born January 11, 1924 in Lobdell, Louisiana. After his parents died, he worked as a longshoreman and construction worker in New Orleans in the late 1930s and early 1940s. Influenced in the style of Jimmy Reed, he began performing in Baton Rouge bars using the name Harmonica Slim, and also accompanied his brother-in-law, Lightning Slim, in live performances. Blues singer and pianist Katie Webster was born January 11th in 1936. A piano-pounding institution on the southern Louisiana swamp blues scene during the late 50s and early 60s, Katie Webster later grabbed a long-deserved share of national recognition with the series of well-received Alligator albums. She had to deal with deeply religious parents who did everything in their power to stop their daughter from playing rhythm and blues. But the rockin' sounds of Fats Domino and Little Richard were simply too persuasive. Thank goodness for that. Well, blues fans, we just covered some of the highlights here. Now, if you want to know more about these artists or other things that happened this week in the blues, and I mean really, who wouldn't? Just be sure to follow our social media pages or go out to our website at bigtrainblues.com. Now, we'll have a brand new episode next week, so we'll see you then.